This is Tom Colley for Through the Ropes Boxing. Delighted to be here today at the Matchroom gym with none other than the trainer himself, Tony Sims. Tony, thanks for having me down again, mate. How's things with you?
Yeah, all good, thanks. Just finished training a couple of boys and going to do a bit of sparring next.
Seen that we've got George in there today, Maisie Rose, Jimmy. Good crop of stable coming through. We've got George, he's just coming off the back of a TKO win. Is that something that you're drilling into your fighters? Are you training them for the knockouts, or is it just something that's coming naturally?
No, it's just coming naturally. You know, he's still learning. He's still young. We're hoping to get a fight in December, and then a fight late January. So he's going to be pretty busy over the Christmas period. So it's just about learning and moving on now. And he's moving up the ratings. He's 8-0 now. So next year he'll be looking at a British title, I would have thought.
Jimmy as well, knockout win last time out. What's next for Jimmy?
Yeah, as you say, knockout win. He's had 7 fights, 7 knockouts. So he's coming on well at the minute, and he'll hopefully be on the same card as George in December and then in January. So they'll both be kept busy this season.
Maisie as well, unfortunately off the back of a defeat. Where are you going now with Maisie? How do you manage that process in terms of building her back up and getting her back on the right track to push on for the titles?
Yeah, as you say, she lost her first fight, and just about rebuilding. She's really young. She's like, if you look at a lot of the women on the scene, they're all in their 30s, and she's really young. She's like 23, so she's got plenty of time to learn and build herself. And we'll be looking to get her back out in December, just get an opponent and a win, and just keep learning really in the gym.
Now, off the back of a great weekend of boxing, Tony, I don't know if you tuned in, but we had the light heavyweight undisputed title between Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol. A lot was going on around that fight as well. One of your fighters, Conor Benn and Eubank Jr. But just focusing on the fight for now, did you watch the fight, and did you think the right man won?
I actually thought it was a draw, that fight. When they read the first scorecard out, 114-114, I actually thought that was the right scorecard. But if it went Bivol's way, or if it went Beterbev's way, then you couldn't argue either way really. It was that close a fight, but it was a great fight to watch. It was one of them fights where you couldn't really take your eyes off the fight. It was you felt like anything could have happened at any time in that fight, and I did feel like Beterbiev was getting to Bivol toward the end. I felt like he was hurting him with body shots, and it was a great fight. It was a great fight for purists to watch, and defensively they were smart, the feet was good, and everything about what they was displaying was great for boxing fans.
Do you think that Beterbiev's pressure, as it came on later in the fight, Bivol was probably scoring a lot of the early rounds? Is that what maybe swayed it in the eyes of the judges, do you think? Do you think that it's better off, do they prefer a pressure fighter, or do you think that, would you prefer the man that's scoring the shots on the back foot?
Like you say, Bivol took a lot of the early rounds. He was hitting with clusters of punches and then moving, so he was winning the early rounds. But I felt Beterbiev had the bigger rounds towards the end because he was actually hurting Bivol. I think, as I said before, if it was a 15-round fight, Beterbiev would have probably got hold of Bivol and maybe even got him out of there. So, I thought a draw would have been a fair result, to be honest.
They're talking about a rematch. Beterbiev's 39, I'll probably be 40 by the time I get back in the ring if it does happen. At what point do you think, at some point, surely Father Time's going to catch up with Beterbiev, or he seems to be a bit of a freak of nature? Do you think that going into the rematch with, a couple of year down the line, Beterbiev will start to show his age at some point?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously you can't go on forever in this game, but to me he looks like a person who's probably never drunk alcohol, probably trained every day of his life, kept himself in amazing condition, and he's an ultimate professional, and then them sort of fighters can go on longer. But as you say, he's heading towards 40 and you can't go on forever. What starts happening as you get older is injuries. Sometimes the injuries are severe that you can't keep carrying on training the way a professional athlete trains, so that's what normally happens. But at the minute, if you look at that performance there, he's still got plenty left in the tank at the moment anyway.
Another fight that didn't go to plan on the card was Liam Cameron versus Ben Whittaker. Ben's obviously a massive prospect, a lot of hype behind him at the moment. Did take a step up with Liam Cameron's been in it, with the likes of Lyndon Arthur, pushed him to a split decision. Were you surprised at how Liam performed against Ben? Did you expect Ben to go through that comfortably, or?
I think everyone before the fight see Ben Whittaker as an overwhelming favourite, because we see Lyndon Arthur beat Liam Cameron the fight before that, and so we was all putting Ben Whittaker in that kind of frame of fighter where he'd be an overwhelming favourite against Cameron. But I felt like Cameron sort of soaked up his shots in the first couple of rounds, realised he weren't really getting hurt by him, and started pushing on. And like in that fifth round, he looked like he was getting hold of Ben Whittaker in that fifth round. And as you say, unfortunately, they both went over the top rope, which is quite. You see it sometimes with heavyweights, but not really with light heavyweights. And because where you have the 4-rope ring, it's quite hard to go over the top ropes there. So, listen, I don't know whether he hurt himself or not. You can't really state that, because he might have hurt himself. Do you know what I mean? We're all saying he never, but he could have done so. But listen, the only thing to do really with that fight is do the immediate rematch on that fight. So that's what needs to happen there for both them fighters' careers.
I was going to ask you, I mean, it's not, no one can say for sure, it's not for us to say, but people are saying that potentially Ben did look for a way out in that fight. Did you see it like that?
Maybe. You don't know what's going through a fighter's mind at that time. If he has hurt himself and he has got a reoccurring injury, then that might be the case. But you would have liked to, as a fighter, seen him get back in the ring and carry on with a fight. As they both went outside the ring. So, as I say, a rematch is probably the fairest thing to do for both them fighters' careers.
Do you think that Ben can right that wrong going into the rematch?
Well, he's got plenty of ability to do that. Whether he's got punching power to hold Cameron off is another thing, So, and he said, listen, it's the 10-round fight, and 10-round fight's a long time to be in the ring, and it depends whether he can hold him off for long enough. And he's got the ability to beat him though, and we'll just have to see in a rematch.
Now, there was obviously, it went viral, the clip with Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. Having a confrontation. That fight's been talked about for some time. Of course, we all know the history between their dads. Do you think, realistically, is that the fight that we're going to see next, Conor, when we see Conor back in the ring? Is it going to be straight into the Chris Eubank Jr. fight, or will there be a process behind it and maybe a couple of fights in the interim?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we always said it's behind Fury and Joshua, it's the biggest British fight in boxing, and I think it's probably, with Joshua and Fury both losing, it's probably overtaken that now. So I think this is what all the nation would want to see, this fight, because obviously the history with their fathers, and as a fan, take a step back, being a coach as a fan, I would want to see that fight. I think everybody would. And I was at the Nigel Benn Chris Eubank fight at Old Trafford. I was ringside for that fight, and both them fights were great fights, and I think both the sons will put great fights on. And obviously I'm involved in that fight, but I'd like to see that fight happen, and I think it will happen next.
When would we be looking at that, do you think, Tony?
Probably February time, probably. Just get Conor's hearing out of the way, which is be over this month, and there'll be full steam ahead.
What did you make of Chris Eubank Jr.'s performance? He's in against Zerameta, who's a game opponent, former European champion. Were you impressed? Was there anything there that worried you? What did you make of it?
Well, I thought he looked good in the first round, to be honest. He come out firing off his jab. He was fast. He put Zerameta down, and I thought maybe he should have gone in trying to finish him off, really. But he kind of, as the rounds went by, he become a little bit lazy. he didn't put so much into his work as the rounds were going by, and then kind of in the round that he stopped him in, he started picking up the pace, and obviously he got him out of there. But I felt like he could have done an earlier job than that in the first round, really.
When we see the fight between Ben and Eubank, which we're all hoping we do, what weight is that going to take place at, Tony? Is that going to be at like middleweight or?
Well, that's all things that we need to discuss what the fight's going to go at. But whatever weight we go in at, Conor feels confident of beating Chris Eubank Jr. And as I say, it's a big fight, a fight that all the fans want to see.
One of your former fighters, Anthony Joshua, of course, fought Daniel Dubois at Wembley Stadium. No one missed that. Didn't go Joshua's way that night, although Daniel Dubois is a devastating puncher, and that can happen in the heavyweights. If you're coaching or training Anthony Joshua now, do you go straight into that immediate rematch with Daniel Dubois?
Well, that'll be completely up to Joshua and his team, but I think for redemption-wise, he would need to get back into the ring and beat Dubois and to redeem himself. But listen, Anthony's had an unbelievable career. He's two-time heavyweight champion of the world. He's done really well financially, and whether he wants to do that fight again or whether he wants to turn it in, it'd be up to him. But I think he's been tremendous for the sport, and he put big-time boxing back on the map in the UK, and whatever he does in his life, whether he comes back into the ring or doesn't, I think he's been a great ambassador for boxing.
Absolutely. Just finally, Tony, the big rematch in December, Tyson Fury, oleksandr Usyk. I saw you out there in Saudi Arabia for the first one. Great fight that it was. Can Fury right the wrong in the rematch, do you think?
Oh, he definitely can do, but Usyk will know that he beat him the first time around, and he'll be confident of beating him the second. But Fury can definitely, he's got the unbelievable ability, and he can definitely, rewrite the script and become champion again. And it's a fascinating fight to watch again. Like the first fight, you couldn't really take your eyes off it, and I'll be looking forward to watching the second fight.
Tyson's been saying that he's going to go on the front foot in this fight, much like the Wilder in the second fight. Do you think that would be the right approach for him to use his size and impose his size on Usyk? Rather, I think in the first fight he did sort of more box with him.
Yeah, and as you say, when he was aggressive in the fight, he looked good when he was letting his hands go. So maybe that is the game plan, but obviously that's up to him and his team to devise that plan, and it would just be exciting to watch again.
Tony Sims, thanks very much for speaking to Free Boxing.